it's Lisa. I'm working on a card today, and I'm going to be doing some things with my Gelli plate. I want to do a card with some butterflies, and I've cut several different masks. I had some larger ones that I had already cut and used in the past, and I thought I needed some smaller ones to go with this because I want to put several butterflies on a card front. And that one may be too small, I don't know. We'll see. I'm just going to do arrangements of a bunch of different butterflies across an area of my Gelli plate, and I'll probably do this so that I can cut two. In fact, I've got this taped down, but I'm going to move it. What would actually be better, I think, is if I turned it this way so that I can end up with two card fronts. I mean, ideally with an 8.5 by 11 you can do 4, but this is an 8 by 10 Gelli plate, so I can get two card fronts going this way depending on how they look. I have some Nina cardstock. This is the cover weight cardstock I get at Staples. And lay a piece out here to roll off. I have my brayer, and then I have a whole bunch of different colors of acrylic paint. So purples, greens, blues, and more aqua colors there. So I'm just going to start working with a lot of different things. I have bubble wrap. I have some different stencils here. And one of the things I have that I've been using, you know, in my scrapbooking videos is trying to use up these letters. These were some basic gray letters, and some of them I have used up all the letters or punched them out and put them other places. So I'm going to use these leftover pieces of the chipboard as part of some of my designs here. So we'll get to some of those too. All right, so let's start on kind of the back. Let's see, I think I want to do maybe the purple for the first layer here. I have a purple and blue-green color scheme, so sometimes I do one color as the base and then the other color as the top layer and then reverse them to see what kind of results that I get. So we're going to start with some purples here using these leftover frames from the chipboard. And I did forget that they still had sticky on the back of them, so they kind of stuck to my paper there. But anyway, it's going to make a really cool print with all of the numbers and letters on there. It's a really neat print. I think I'll be doing quite a few of those kinds of prints. I think that's a nice found object to use. We'll do a ghost print. And let's do some other purple that maybe isn't quite as busy a background. I'll throw a little blue into this one. And my favorite thing is bubble wrap. It makes the easiest little background to me. Kind of press what's left of the bubble wrap or the paint on the bubble wrap off on some scrap or one of my backgrounds there to add a little bit of color. This one ended up maybe not quite as textured as it should have been. I got a lot of paint on this one. So we'll just have to see how it goes. Okay, clean that off, and now we're going to do some green layer using both some Martha Stewart more of an aqua color and then some brighter colors of green. Most of what I use for Gelli prints is just plain old craft paint. I do play sometimes with other types of paint, but I find that the craft paint works just about as well as anything. Distress paints work well too, but the craft paint is so cheap and it works really well. This plate was from, or that tray was from the dollar store, and it makes a nice little impression. And the only thing about these, I wasn't really crazy about the print that made, but it's just, you know, a different kind of look. What came out sort of interesting here was doing the ghost print out of this. I liked this one better than I thought, and I do end up making some cards out of that one because I think it was really sort of neat. And we're doing a little more blues and yellows, and this is going to be just another one with the butterflies, so that the blue and yellows will be the primary color. Once you've put the masks, the butterfly masks on there, and you press your Gelli print down, then that blue and green, it's going to cover up just about everything. So we get some purple butterflies showing through. And this was one I thought would be a really neat background. So I just left the butterflies in place and pressed the paper over, and I did get a background I really, really liked. And then I experimented leaving some of the butterflies on and some of them off, adding a little more paint. Some more kind of neat looks here. I threw some orange into this. That's a color called Tiger Lily from Martha Stewart Paints in the Pearl finish. It's a beautiful color. And what I'm doing here is making some smaller prints that I'm going to use for cutting out the butterflies. I've got enough backgrounds, I think, to play with. As I just say, sometimes I do, one color for the background and then switch it up to a different one for the background. In this case, I decided I really thought I'd like that purpley color to be my butterfly color. And I think I do some butterflies in blue too, but I ended up doing a little bit more with the purples and oranges. And I have this drawing tool here, but I haven't mastered it very well. So I played with it just a little bit and decided that that wasn't probably going to work out that well. That circular thing that with the grid lines in it, that is an old coaster for needlepoint. You're supposed to needlepoint that from like back in the 80s. And on these layers, I just go over and over and over, adding different layers to it. And I like to have some small detail texture in this too, because I'm going to be cutting these up in small amounts. Now the drawing tool worked a little better for this, I think. And that added some purple over one of those blue pieces that I had. Again, I'm not too worried about the overall look of this, because I'm going to be cutting this up and to punch. If I had a butterfly punch, I'd use the punch, but I'm going to be using the silhouette to cut my butterflies. This is going to make a pretty one with all of that extra texture look there. I'm not cleaning the background as I go because I don't care about having lots of layers. The Gelli print you don't really get real thick applications of paint. Your paper doesn't turn out real thick when you get done, I don't think. So it can still go through the die cutters really well. And I think this is the last one. I'm just doing some circle designs with a stencil. I hadn't done a lot of stencils with this particular project, even though I'd pulled several out. All right, now we have lots of butterflies, and I cut a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch piece out of a piece of white cardstock so I could use it to see what pieces of a particular design, whether it's designer paper or Gelli print, that I want to cut for my card base. And then I'm going to do the same thing with these the butterflies is not going to be quite as precise. I took those to the paper to the silhouette, and I just cut out a bunch of butterflies in different sizes to go inside the different backgrounds. So all these cards, even though they're starting out with a lot of the same colors and designs, are going to end up looking a little different. And this is one of my favorite ways to make multiple cards with basically the same designs and colors, is to do these sort of variations. So no two cards are quite the same, but I can do them all as a grouping, and I don't have to pull out a bunch of different supplies for each card. I've got several ribbons out here, and I can mix and match. And I do several of these off camera, but I wanted to show you one on camera where I'm just deciding which ribbon that I want to use. I did a stamped greeting there. I tried stamping directly on the background of some of them, but I wasn't using my Stamp-A-Majig. I was trying to cheat and not use it, and I didn't end up getting them very straight. So it worked out to do it on a die cut label. Put a couple of rows of ribbon on here. I had picked some green cardstock. I think that's Lucky Limeade, was an older color from Stampin' Up, used to be an in color. And then one of their other colors, Primrose Petals or something of that nature, some of the older in colors for some of the backgrounds. And adhering the butterflies with glue dots. And sometimes I put some dimensional adhesive too, so that they'll pop up a little bit on their wings. And there's a finished card, one of the finished cards, and go ahead and show you some of the others. This one, I had my butterfly ended up kind of hanging off the edge, so I had to trim the card down so that it would still fit in the envelope. This is one of my favorites. Very subtle background. I did add a little bit of misting on the bottom to give it a little bit more color, because that was kind of bare down there. And I added a little bit of Silver Perfect Pearls in the middle. That one I did successfully stamp the greeting directly on the background. This one I ended up putting on the label with a little bit of ribbon, and here's one with just 2 tiny little pieces of ribbon. Makes it look like they wrap really to the back, but they just wrap around the face of the design. So I got 5 different cards from playing with my jelly prints and cutting a bunch of butterflies. So thank you so much for watching today.